Kia ora, and welcome back to Videotrons, or if it is your first time here, welcome, kia ora, sup. We are going to review the new film, the brand new spanking film from director
Parker Finn.
And it is called Smile, and hence us doing our creepy smiles. I'm Hannah Hart.
And I'm Nick Hart.
And I'm legally Hannah Hart now because we got married on Halloween. Isn't that lovely? Appropriately ghoulish day for two horror-loving fiends such as us. We've been seeing lots of cool horrors lately, and we were quite pleasantly surprised by Smile. Now, see, I thought, yeah, I'm gonna like this because I find Smiles pretty creepy, you know. And Nick was like, nah, Smiles aren't that creepy.
I just a horror film with the title Smile. I was just like rolled my eyes.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't call my own horror film Smile, or I wouldn't choose that as a kind of a theme for a horror film. But I loved this one. I was very surprised by how much I loved it in lots of different ways. The soundtrack and the J-horror influences, and yeah.
Very strong J-horror influences. The director in an interview didn't seem to mention those influences, which we thought was kind of strange because there's a moment that's like straight out of The Grudge 2, and there's a snapshot of like a twisted, distorted, horrified face, which is just like The Ring. So there's definitely the influence, but maybe that's just so embedded in him.
I reckon.
Yeah, I think because he says he loves horror and he loves practical effects.
He mentioned Kiyoshi Kurosawa, who we're a huge fan of, and it's really rare to hear any Western director kind of mention him in interviews and things, so we were very excited when we heard that. We even had to rewind it and watched it again, the way we quite often do with gore and stuff. And he also mentioned Safe by Todd Haynes, which is another film that we really love, so it was really exciting to hear that. So he's probably really into J-horror, like maybe when he was a bit younger. He's still very young, but you know, these are probably things that he's interested in at the moment, that people that he mentioned. So
yes, he mentioned these because an interviewer asked him what his sort of influences were on this film, and he also talked about Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby, which of course is a brilliant film, but we were really surprised to hear that he mentioned Cure by Kiyoshi Kurosawa and Safe, because they both had this kind of feeling of like paranoia and like kind of creeping menace. And I actually yelled, I think, out loud when he said Kiyoshi Kurosawa, because I was so delighted to hear someone actually mention Kurosawa. He's so overlooked, especially in the Western world, and I think he's my favourite living director. So it's a really big call from a big horror movie buff like me. I mean, I haven't seen many of his films that aren't horror, but they're so good. The ones that aren't horror, I don't care. They're all flipping fantastic. He has such a style about him, and yeah, absolutely incredible director. So that really made us very, very happy to find that out. We thought, gee, this is someone we could sit down with and probably have a really interesting discussion with. And the fact that he said that, you know, he's a massive practical effects fan, that's so up my alley. And he said that it was almost even the reason why he got into making films in the first place. So that was like, I was like, no wonder it looks so flippin' good. And like Kiyoshi Kurosawa, there's moments where you're like, how did they do that? How did that happen? How did they create, especially the creature? I have no idea how they did the creature. I mean, some moments had to have been some CGI, surely.
Yeah, I mean, I could sometimes, like when she was stabbing the knife into that guy in a kind of when she was imagining it killing this guy, that was definitely CG.
It looked pretty CG,
I could tell, yeah. So they definitely used it.
I'm sure there was moments of it, but yeah, if the practical effects that we used were really, really awesome. In fact, I suppose the creature almost is one of my favourite creatures that I've seen in horror cinema for a very, very long time. I was really impressed with those effects and the kind of whole vibe of it. To be honest, I didn't find it particularly creepy for quite a long time, and there weren't moments that really sort of creeped me out. I think mainly a lot of things were spoiled because of the trailer. A lot of those really good moments are shown in the trailer, and I hate it when a movie does that, when it like gives all these great moments away. But I understand that they have to do that to try and draw people in. I do understand it. But he did mention himself that there was a bit of humour in it to him, so that was good to know that it wasn't just me kind of being a bit of a sicko. I did find moments quite funny.
The title, Smile, I think, would have to have some kind of humour.
And the woman that they use for all the sort of trailer stuff, the woman who kind of slits her throat in the trailer, what's her name again? Caitlin?
Yes, Caitlin Stasey.
I was really excited to see Caitlin Stasey, even though it's quite a small role, because she's an actress that I really love. She's Australian, and she's in this show called Please Like Me, which isn't horror related at all. It's it's kind of a comedy drama, but it deals with some really, really, really important issues in a really kind of somehow in a light way, but it's also got this very heavy stuff. And I despised it. The first 15 minutes of the show I was like, who's this guy? Why does he talk so weird? Like, what is going on? I hate this show. But I ended up giving it a good go, and it's become one of my favorite shows sort of to come back to. There's something, it's a really, really good show. It's about, it sort of shows the reality of life as a homosexual guy, like just the actual reality of what sex is like, and sort of what sort of things he deals with being kind of an unattractive gay man. It's very, very interesting, and just the way that it deals with mental illness especially, I thought was absolutely remarkable. I've never seen a show deal with it so matter-of-factly and make it not too heavy to view. And I tend to go back, and my sons really, really love that show as well.
Okay.
It's funny, but it's way more than just a comedy, and it's very clever, and it's somehow very, very heartwarming. So I think it's a really good show in a lot of ways. And yeah, seeing Caitlin in another role with an American accent was really exciting.
Yeah.
I think she's a great actress, and it's great to see her in something else. I hope to see her in more things coming up. She's awesome. She's very pretty as well. Yes. But the main character is played by a woman called
Sosie Bacon.
Sosie Bacon. It's a crazy sounding name, right? Strange name. Sosie, not Susie, Sosie. But
she was very good.
She was very good, yeah.
Yeah, like I was surprised by how engaging I found her, and like how far she pushed herself in scenes where she was kind of like supposedly acting crazy. She was great, and scaring children at a birthday party. That was a great scene.
Great. Yes, she's quite ordinary looking lady, and I hadn't really seen her in much stuff.
Kind of looks a little bit like Carey Mulligan in some way, like her eyes or something. I keep thinking.
Who's she again?
She was in Drive, and she was in Never Let Me Go, which you haven't seen yet.
No.
That's really good.
But boy, she's fantastic at playing a woman that's like, her whole reality is kind of crumbling down. She plays a psychologist, working in, a place where she's not, I guess, not getting paid maybe her full worth, but it seems like she just really cares about her job. She's got some previous trauma that you're introduced to right at the start. This film is very much about trauma, and it could be seen as a really good analogy for how trauma is passed down. So someone seeing something traumatic can be traumatized and pass that trauma on, like it's kind of like a curse. And I mean, trauma is kind of like a curse. You witness trauma, you carry that trauma, you might pass that trauma on. And also that maybe some people are more vulnerable to curses and trauma than other people, that if there is entities out there that would like to take up habitation inside someone, they'd be more drawn to a deliciously traumatized person. I thought that was a really, really interesting concept, and really remarkable that this is a first feature-length film from the director. That was really
done two
surprising.
shorts previously, and one of the shorts was I've forgotten what it's called. Laura
Needs sleep or something like
that.
Has to sleep.
Yeah, Has to Sleep, I think.
And he did say that he got some germs of the idea from that he kind of, but it's still quite a different story in this film. I'm really excited to see what he comes up with next. Like, this is like a refreshing new voice in the horror world as far as I'm concerned. Very, very refreshing, very exciting.
I'm so pleased that this film has done really well at the box office, which means he'll be throwing money to make new horrors.
Yes, and it didn't feel like a first film at all. I've got to say, at the beginning, there were a few camera angles that I thought were kind of overused and like totally unnecessary. I was like, why are you even doing that camera angle? Like, why? But as the film goes on, it grows into itself more and more and more, and it just seems, it's not like it starts out kind of janky or awkward. It's just like some of it, I'm like, why is that even happening? Or why are they using those sounds? Like, it seemed a little bit out of whack with itself. But as the film goes on, progresses, it becomes more and more fully developed and smooth and flows extremely well, and everything starts to make more sense.
He said that making the transition from making shorts to a feature film was a big learning curve, and he got so much from it, and I'm sure that his next film he'll be progressing in leaps and bounds. I mean, yeah, he's
certainly got the chops to make movies. He really, really, really does. And did you find it quite creepy?
Yeah, I did. From quite early on, I was quite surprised by how much I was enjoying it, and like how his direction of actors, especially like right at the start with that character Carl, who was schizophrenic.
saying we're all going to die, we're all going to die.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot better than a lot. I mean, we watch a lot of horrors,
Mm-hmm.
and it was something quite special that I was watching.
We always do say how sad it is that the J and the K sort of horror of the sort of late 90s, early 2000s is kind of dried up. We thought that was a movement that would continue, but this film seems to sort of lean into and almost resurrect that vibe, that feeling.
You still get a few films creeping through every now and then, but yeah, it was pretty much from like 97 until like 2004 or something that you were getting lots of J horror films. I mean, you know, if you're in Japan, there are probably a lot more coming out that we probably don't hear about and stuff, but yeah, it's probably my favorite horror genre, subgenre, really. I love it so much. So yeah, anytime I see a horror film that's like obviously indebted to that subgenre, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I thought that it held the torch really well, and it also reinvigorated and put sort of a new, it still felt fresh.
Yeah,
even though I think you could tell that it's influenced by films of that era, it still feels very fresh, very modern. I think it's also kind of a film about how some people, they try to hide their trauma, they try to hide how dysfunctional they really are and try to appear perfect to other people, but then in doing that and hiding that side of yourself and trying to keep that from the people you love, you're going to end up with the wrong people around you. Because her partner, when she starts, like her fiance, when she starts kind of cracking up, he can't deal with it at all. And it turns out her ex-boyfriend, the cop who turns up in it, he's a lot better, sort of more open about sort of being open to what's going on for him, wanting to hear her story rather than just dismissing her as being crazy. So it's kind of all about the life we construct for ourselves and how we try to pretend that, you know, we keep all this trauma under the surface, but how it never really goes away, how we have to deal with it, and also any guilt around certain traumas that tends to like eat away at you as well. So there's a lot of really interesting themes on top of this being just a creepy film about this entity that it spreads. It's so funny because I was whispering to Nick when we first heard it, you know, how long does this curse sort of follow people around until they're gone? And of course it's 4 to 7 days, and I kept saying to Nick, I was like, 7 days. Just like in The Ring. And at the beginning also I thought this is so much like It Follows. Yeah, because It Follows can take the shape of different people with this being that follows you around, and it's also a curse that's passed on from person to person. And I won't give it away because I want you to watch this film and not do spoilers, but there's something that you can do to kind of get rid of this entity, but it's not the greatest, and also if you muck it up, it'll keep following you. So
it's a bit like The Ring, actually.
Yes, I definitely thought straight away, I was like, this has got to be about curses. So I definitely think like there were some things taken definitely from films like It Follows and The Ring, but like we said, it's a very fresh take and it still goes in a very different direction, and I can usually kind of guess what's going to happen along the way, but there were a couple of wee surprises here, a couple of little little what do they call it when you think something's going to happen but then they change it? It's like a shuffle out or something like that. I know, I can't remember what the term is for it, but it had a couple of moments like that were very pleasing.
Really good score too by Cristobal Tapia de Vera, a Chilean-born, mainly TV composer who obviously has like the score is like all electronic, and I think that he records like acoustic instruments, like especially cello. I kept sort of thinking before I'd looked him up that it could have almost been Oliver Coates, who we've been getting into lately, but it's a bit more kind of manic than Oliver Coates stuff. And he did the Utopia.
Utopia is a TV show from, I think it's 2014 or 2013.
Yeah.
It's not the disgusting American remake, which I refuse to acknowledge. I actually got so angry when I started watching the trailer for that. I thought someone's ripping off Utopia, and then I was like, they're actually calling it Utopia, and the director hadn't even watched the original. Like, why would you remake this perfect English series, which was literally perfect, into some shitty American bastardization? So I don't even know if that composer was involved in it, but the score on Utopia is so weird and so good. I used to listen to it on repeat, especially when I was doing the housework, because it used to put me in this really weird frame of mind that made it a lot more interesting to do the housework around. He's got these, and he incorporates these sort of like strange sort of like rubbing sounds. So I think that there's certain instruments that he uses, and like he kind of like mucks around.
He sounds
with
like a
the
Foley guy.
Yeah, he does.
A lot of the time. I've been wondering, because it's suddenly gotten really hot here in Christchurch today, well, in the last few weeks, and today was in town wandering around listening to the Smile soundtrack, and it's great. It's like, it reminds me a lot of this Greek composer Yanis Xenakis, who's really, really interesting, who I have been a big fan of since I was a teenager. So yeah, it's really exciting to hear that someone like him is doing scores for TV and movies.
Yeah, this director's very lucky to get him. I think he's so special, and if I'd known that he was composing this film, I think I would have been a lot more excited. So it was just kind of like, hang on, that kind of sounds like something I've heard before. So yeah, that really made it extra specially wonderful for me, because I've been hanging out to hear something from him. He's done a little bit of composition for shows like Black Mirror, but Utopia, please, if you haven't seen it, see, it's really dark, it's really weird, it's got this incredibly bright, vibrant palette, but it's also very very dark, and it's kind of like, anyone who's into conspiracy theories and like theories around vaccinations and stuff, it kind of gets really into that, and I really want Nick to watch it with me, but I know that he isn't as keen on TV shows, but I think this one is a real exception. I was obsessed with it.
Yeah, it sounds good. If I watch more TV, I definitely would watch that.
Oh, it's so good. The acting is so good, and it's so disturbing, but so pretty and so bright at the same time. And so when the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, this is like Utopia. This is a bit freaky. But yeah, I remember actually, I think there was like a competition too around the time when it came out that you could remix the score and win some sort of competition. So a few of my friends tried to do that. They didn't get anywhere, but I thought that was really neat. So we tried to be involved in this world because we were so obsessed with it at the time.
Some other interesting people involved in Smile, the actor Kyle Gollner. After we finished watching Smile last night, we watched The Haunting in Connecticut, which he was in. So he's been involved in horror films for quite a long time, by the sounds of things. And there was also
he's really good.
Yeah, very good,
very solid. Yeah.
And there was a nice sort of cameo as the Shrink in Smile by I knew I recognized her. She kind of like, she has a weird mouth. She looks like she's like she's holding a marble in her mouth or something when she talks. She was in, I knew I recognized her from Synecdoche, New York, as the adult Olive, who has tattoos all over her, and one of her tattoos of a flower kind of falls off. But yeah, she's really cool. Yeah, especially in a scene where she does that smile, creepy smile, climbing over the furniture.
They're so good with the creepy smiles, because the smiles don't really ever reach the eyes. So it's just like this mouth.
Yeah.
Smiles are creepy. Apparently, I think with this film, some of the promo involved people in different places just standing there and smiling. So there was some really quite clever sort of, what do they call it when they're trying to clever promotional ideas that I really appreciated. I like that very on the ground, you know, like just like quite creative, no budget.
They did ideas. One at like a baseball game or something.
Yeah, that's really clever. I really love that kind of out of the box thinking. I think it was only $17 million for this film.
Yeah, which is considered a low budget these days, which is pretty low.
But it's been used like, you can't tell that it's low budget. It's not. It's a lot of the time you look at things and you go, this is great, but you can tell it's a low budget. You couldn't tell there was a low budget with this. There's been a lot
doesn't feel low budget.
Really good creative choices made that makes this look like a big budget blockbuster by someone who's made lots of films for a really long time. Yep. So can't really say enough good things about it, really. I would have loved it to just be a little bit scarier. I don't know, like
I feel like it's going to be I'm going to really enjoy seeing it a second and third time. Like it's a film that I definitely want to go back to. So it'll probably be, you know, scarier.
It also features the most beautiful cat we've ever seen. So cute. With the dumbest name.
Moustache.
Like it doesn't even have like a little moustache, but it's the most beautiful cat. We had to rewind a few times to watch because it was such a beautiful little cat. Such a sweet little face. Oh, we love cats. I would deal with fur and my polymer clay for a cat that beautiful. I really would. And the scene with the children's birthday party was just mwah.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. There was a few moments I was like, this is exactly like another film that I've seen, but I still think it was done really, really well. And I don't mind homages to really great films. don't mind a bit of that here and there.
Mm.
I mean, it's hard to be truly original, and also like if something works really well in another film, I can see the point of incorporating it into another one. Works well, looks good, yeah. Anything else to say about it?
No, I think that exhausts it.
I guess we rate it.
Yes.
And
sure.
our rating system is from 1 being shit to 5 to being the best ever hearts. And we both give our opinion on how many hearts, and then we add it up together, which is a bizarre rating system, but there you have it. That's just how we do it.
Mine's 3.5.
3.5?
Yep.
I'd give mine a 4, I think.
Yeah, I'd nearly be a 4, but yeah.
I think you gave it like a 7.5.
I did 7.5.
IMDb.
Yep.
So yeah, I give 7.5. With 4 and 3.5, 7.5
That's good.
hearts out of 10. Yeah, really pleasantly surprised with this one. We quite like Barbarian. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked it, but then I found myself constantly kind of comparing it to this, mainly just saying that I was enjoying Smile a lot more
Yeah.
than Barbarian.
And I think Barbarian was really overhyped, and that kind of ruined it a little bit for me. But it does have a couple of really awesome moments, and it is quite creepy. But I think I think that The Innocents and Speak No Evil were the 2 best horror films this year I've seen so far by a long shot. But in terms of Western films, I'm thinking Smile might be my top pick for horror films this year so far.
Yeah.
I'm really pleasantly surprised. Great performances, incredible soundtrack, and really, really good directing. So I got goosebumps thinking about this. Yeah, it's just exciting to think about a director like this, and hopefully, because it's been so successful, he'll continue to make many, many more. So make sure you get out to the theatres and support it. You know, Nick bought the soundtrack yesterday, so anyway, you can put some money into this film so this lovely new director can get support and continue making these great things. That would be greatly appreciated. So
Definitely.
yeah, lots of love from us, and hope you had a great Halloween. We sure did, and we'll see you later.
For our top 10 horror films of all time, coming up
It's gonna be
soon.
fun. So much fun. See ya. Bye.
Bye.